Hello and welcome to Eco-Terrorism. I'm Zeinab Bailoun. We walk around our neighborhoods in our cities every day, but do we notice just how much green space we are missing? Joining us today to discuss this topic in the studio is Ms. Dima Boulad of the Beirut Green Project team. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
So before we start our discussion, let's take a quick look at this report.
Urbanization involves change, and good change generates sustainable development. Nevertheless, changes in terms of population increase, industrialization, and increased settlement are inevitable. They use up a lot of space and consequently exert significant pressure on the limited available urban space, most especially the green space. Aware of the fact that all components of nature are interrelated, there is a need to closely establish the relationship between urbanization and nature. This interdependence of all living things and their complex relation with the physical environment constitutes the scientific basis for conservation. Therefore, the ultimate goal for conservation is to help any individual retain meaningful contact with the natural setup from which he evolved and to which he remains linked. Accordingly, which solution would generate the relation between the nature and the human beings? While the axis of green spaces, which represent an area within the urban zone, sets up a close relationship between man and nature and would be a constructive solution to the daily stress people pass through. In this regard, Beirut Green Project came as a reaction to the uncontrolled sprawl of cement and buildings eating up the city. The team of Beirut Green Project believes in different modes of urban planning that take into account the basic human right to have access to more green spaces. Plenty of values are attached to green space, and this appears to be the cause for communities' interest in green space establishment. However, for purposes of promoting ecological green space identity and ensuring sustainable use of land, planners must consider the natural and human processes as being interdependent.
So what can you tell us about the Beirut Green Project?
So the Beirut Green Project is a collective of Lebanese people, and we all believe that public green space is a right, and public green space is something that is missing, highly missing from Beirut, and this is something that we focus on and that we work on.
So why exactly do you think it's a right?
Well, I mean, it's to me and to us, this is something that is really basic, and this is something that's one of the first rights that you should have in a city. You have the right to go out, to sit in a place without having to pay anything, so you're not sitting in a cafe. And at the same time, you have the right to be in nature. And this is happening in the city, not necessarily going up to the mountains or escaping from the city. This is something that should be in every urban corner. Or
do you think it's present in other countries, for example, to a greater degree than it is in ours?
Of course. The birth of our team happened after we traveled, and we saw that things could be much different. Things could happen in a different way in other countries, and this is why it inspired us to get this movement going and really focus on this matter here in Beirut, because it's really missing.
Can you give us some examples of some green spaces that you really liked or that you really fell in love with, even if they were in other countries, for example?
I mean, I lived in Paris for a while, and there you have a lot of parks that are really interesting and that are very spacious. And even if you don't talk about the big ones, you have small gardens that are not that big, but they are. I mean, you have spaces where you can go sit on a bench, take a book, take your lunch. And one thing that really stood out too was, let's say in Turkey, in Istanbul, you have very nice parks too, and it's not very far, so one can only think like, why don't we have this here in Beirut?
So why do you think that green spaces are related to basic human rights?
So I mean, it's your right to enjoy your city without having to go out to a cafe and sit down and buy something. It's your right to go and enjoy the city and just be somewhere without having to pay, basically. And on top of that, to be in connection with nature and be surrounded by some trees.
And you think the government should be providing this?
Of course. I mean, this is part of urban city planning that is missing here. It is a new subject that's being put on the agenda now, so it's a good thing. This is why we're so positive as a team to how things are going now, but still it's not enough. We need more. We need more public green spaces.
So when did Beirut Green Project start, and what made you so interested in this whole initiative in the first place?
So as I mentioned before, we were inspired by some of our travelings as a team,
as a group,
and as a group, and we were inspired by just seeing what we can do here in Beirut. And it started with a small intervention that happened 3 years ago, and I think we're going to see a video of it later. And so it started just as a message that we wanted to tell the world and to say that we need more public green spaces. And basically what happened was people responded in such positive way to our intervention, and they all started sending us messages and emails and saying that, yeah, we really do need this. I mean, thank you for putting this message out there. And this inspired us to do another bigger intervention the year before, after, so it was in 2011. And this made us, it was in Cécine Square, and we put grass on the floor, and we invited people to come and enjoy the park as if it was a park, basically. And we wanted to say in a peaceful way that we need more public green spaces. And after that, our group was formed, and we started working on more projects on the ground, more projects, more awareness raising projects, basically.
Do you think there was a huge positive response to this?
Yes, definitely. We weren't expecting this, but the response of the people who are helping us, our friends of the group, of course, is tremendous, and people need this. So this is why this is inspiring us to keep on working better. I mean, more and more, because this is something that we really have to represent. In
that everyone really wants.
Exactly.
So let's say we talk about green spaces. How exactly would you define them? Do you think there are certain characteristics that a green space needs to have, or is it just any place that people can kind of sit in?
So it's we have to differentiate maybe between a public space and a green space. So if it's a like a plaza, like a Cécile Square, let's say, this is not a green space. It could turn into a green space if we add some trees, some grass, maybe some benches. But I would say like a green space is so it has to be public, of course, and it has to be maybe you have some benches, not necessarily grass, but at least greenery. So maybe some trees and some greenery.
So what exactly are the benefits do you think that green spaces have? Do you think there are, for example, social benefits, environmental benefits, maybe economic benefits? I mean,
there's the level of stress. So on this level, public green spaces are known to like green spaces all in all are known to like decrease the stress level of people, because when you go and sit down during a very heavy work stressful work week, you sit down, you relax. People are known to be less stressful if they spend some time in public green spaces. And on another level, you have pollution. So those public green spaces decrease the level of pollution in a city. And they provide a place where you can exercise, so people are more healthy when they have places where they can go run or walk or just let out some stress.
That's right.
Even on another level, if you have an area where you have public green spaces, this area will have more value because you would have a place to go and sit down. The kids can go play.
And as you said, it's of psychological benefit as well.
Of course, yes. It's been proven how this affects public green spaces, affect the psychological levels. People are less stressed. They're less likely to develop illnesses and stuff like that.
So can you tell us about the Beirut Green Guide? What exactly is it and what type of initiative is it?
So Beirut Green Guide is the latest project that we worked on. It's an interactive map that maps out all the public green spaces that we have in Beirut. And it's so it started as a need. We started as soon as we organized events in the parks, we noticed that there's no place where you can go and look for all the public green spaces or the parks that we have in Beirut. So we came up with the idea and said, why not? We have to have a place where you can see all the information that you need to have. And this idea was also born during a workshop that we had a year and a half ago. Where we raised the question on how can we raise more awareness on the importance of having public green spaces. And one of the teams responded that basically we have to start by seeing what we have, and then we can improve what we already have. Instead of asking, we need more, we need more, we need more, we need to see what we have already, what are the parks and gardens that we have, in order to improve them. And so this is what happened. We started working with a company as part of their CSR program. So it's Wonder 8 Design Studio, and they offered to work on the whole project with us. And we developed the map, which is now online. So you can go to beirutgreenguide.com and look at the work that has been going on until now. And so the map gives an overview of all the parks that we have, showing pictures, showing info about what you would get if you have a Wi-Fi connection, let's say, or if you have a children play area or not, if you can take your pets, because some parks are pet friendly, some parks are not. So it's everything you need to know about the parks is available on this map, on this guide.
Thank you very much. We'll be continuing this issue right after the break, so please stay tuned.
Wherever those are persecuted, that place we tackle case by case.
Cases, where we believe that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Welcome back. So to continue what we were discussing before, we were talking about the Beirut Green Guide, and you were telling us about what exactly it involves. Can you tell us about the next steps that you think you will be taking in terms of this Green Guide?
Sure. So we already, now we launched the project last month, and now the map, the guide is available online. But we're not going to stop here. We have the next steps planned out. And it involves printing the map, so we have to gather more info to make it richer. And we're gonna print the map and distribute it in Beirut. Our goal is really to have this map available for the largest amount of people. So we are looking for collaborators in terms of magazines, if we're going to distribute it, because it's going to be for free, of course. Our goal is to distribute it and have people use it as much as possible.
And what do you think the reception has been like so far?
People are very excited about it. We had a very good launch last month, and people offered to help, to get more info. We even approached the municipality, and they were really on board for the next steps of the project. So printing the map and distributing it, they're going to be helping us out with that. Even the Ministry of Tourism attended the launch, and they really expressed how, I mean, it aligns with, I mean, we're all working in the same direction, so we're all going to team up with for the next steps, and we're going to work on it together.
So since there's been such a positive reception and people have been so excited about this whole initiative in the first place, what do you think are the obstacles that stand in our way in terms of, you know, moving forward? What exactly is the problem?
Well, I think the lack of really organized urban planning. This is what's missing in Beirut, and so it's good to raise awareness on how to be in a public space, how to take care of those public green spaces that we have, but also in terms of, I mean, it needs a master plan for the whole city, and this is what's been missing. And there's one other obstacle which is always recurrent. Sometimes a lot of people tell us, okay, well, I mean, this is the least of our concerns in this country. I mean, we have a lot
political
more
problems.
We have political problems, we have electricity problems, water, and all that. But people don't seem to realize that this is a big part of I mean, if we don't have public green spaces, then people are not going to be interacting together. And what's the point of a public green space? Is for you to be in the same place as other people who might not think like you. And this is okay. This is needed in Lebanon, not just have everybody sitting around in a corner in a different area. So this is needed. We need to be more, how do you call it? Like, we need to interact together.
And encompass all these different groups together.
Exactly.
And perhaps even having these public green spaces could help us to make events, to start events where people come together and share their ideas, say from different sides.
It's already starting. So there's, Hajj Beirut is our biggest park. I mean, for now, it's there's a large part of it which is still closed, but people are already organizing events there in the part which is open,
and there have been people working on opening the rest of it as well.
Exactly, and we've been participating in some of the events that's been happening, because we think it's a real shame that this park is not open. It's beautiful, but it needs to be open with the right manner and with the right conditions, right? We need to really take care of it. But it defies the purpose to keep it closed.
Yeah. What about the people who say that they criticize this whole idea, and they say that if we open it, it'll ruin the place, we won't be able to take care of the public space? What do you think about that?
I understand that. I understand how they're thinking, but it's a bit absurd, because having fear for a place, I mean, having fear of having it ruined is understandable, but not opening it because we have this fear is also kind of absurd. So we need to work on opening it, but really work on putting guards, raising awareness on how not to litter, how to take care of the space, how to behave in a public space, basically.
So we'll continue with this issue right after this quick report, because before we continue, there is a report by the Beirut Green Project in Beirut streets. Let's take a quick look at it. So to continue with this issue, can you tell us more, give us your comments on this video? What exactly drove you to choose these images for the video and to make it so public in this way?
So this was the intervention we were talking about before. The one that happened where we just knew that we wanted to say out loud in a certain way about our frustration of not having enough public green spaces. So we took a square of green grass and placed it in 9 spots around Beirut with a sign. The sign is very similar to the municipality signs, with the brown and the white design, and we put on it enjoy your green space, تمتع بالفسحة الخضراء. And this basically was a way, it was ironic, it was an ironic way of saying this is what we really think. I mean, as if the municipality is saying, okay, this is the meter square that you get for public green spaces. And this was the intervention that was really well received by the public, and people shared a lot of images of this online. When we took one picture and put it online, and people responded so well and said, yeah, we do need more public green spaces.
Do you think it's only this type of awareness is only present in certain areas of Beirut, or in certain, for example, certain schools or universities, but it's not as present as it should be in the wider community?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, when we did different activities in different areas, or when we talked to different kinds of people, this seems to be one of the issues that is common, and everyone agrees that we need more spaces and we need to take care of the parks that we already have. So we noticed that everyone seems to be agreeing on this in the same way.
So joining us by phone today is Mr. Bob Sallinger, Conservation Director at Audubon, Portland. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So what can you tell us about the Urban Green Spaces Institute? What is your aim exactly?
I actually work for Portland Audubon Society, which is closely affiliated with the Urban Green Spaces Institute. But both of our aims are to create healthy urban environments, to create urban environments that have parks and natural areas, access to nature, and those are critical things to have clean air, clean water, and healthy people.
So how do you go about achieving your goal of integrating natural environments with cities?
We do a variety of things. Excuse me. We do a variety of things. First of all, we promote protection of parks and natural areas, a system of parks and natural areas that are interconnected to the bigger landscape, that provide opportunities for recreation, wildlife habitat, opportunities for people to experience nature and participate in nature. We also focus very heavily on green infrastructure, looking at the built landscape and making sure that we have street trees and eco-roofs and green streets and basically things that deal in Portland. We have a very big, we have a lot of rain, and so dealing with stormwater, but also those kinds of things, trees and green roofs, also are important for reducing urban heat island effect, cleaning our air, creating some access to nature. So we focus there as well. And the last thing I would say is we work with big coalitions. We try to work with a lot of other groups that are concerned about building healthy communities. So we try to work with, for example, housing advocates and transportation advocates to build whole communities, recognizing that you want to have a good transportation system, jobs close by, affordable housing, and green space, that these are all parts of a livable community.
So as kind of a final question to wrap things up, where do you think that the future lies for our cities and our natural habitats? Do you think they'll be integrated anytime soon?
Well, I think we're making progress. I think people are realizing that this is really an important thing. For too long, we have viewed cities as something separate from nature, something completely apart. And I think people, as the planet has become more and more urbanized, has realized that it is absolutely critically important to keep nature close to where people are living. And so I think you're seeing a lot of cities starting to rethink that, and as they redevelop, integrating in green strategies, realize that people need to be near parks, trying to get away from the automobile, recognizing that if people have to travel to see nature, we increase our carbon footprint. And so how do we build livable communities with nature nearby for sustainable human populations, but also for protect our biodiversity as well?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallinger, for joining us today. We'll be back to our guest in the studio, Ms. Boulad. What can you tell us as kind of a final question about raising awareness? What are the most efficient tools that we can use to raise awareness?
So the first thing is to completely be out there and really take this. I mean, there's a lot of awareness that needs to be done. So some of the things, we have a big activity that's going on with our team, which is called Green Your Lunch Break, and this is our #1 raising awareness activity, and it basically promotes the idea of using the parks that we already have and putting the light on them, and making people be aware of what's the importance of going to these places daily, not just on the weekends or once a month. But Green Your Lunch Break is a meetup in a park every 2 weeks in spring and summer, and where we go and discover a different park of the city every time. And this is an activity where we promoted the idea that we do have more than 20 public green spaces in the city, and not a lot of people know them. Not a lot of people are aware that they are there. So I guess this is our biggest activity so far for raising awareness, and we hope to be continuing in that direction.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boulad, for joining us today.
You.
Here are some points that describe the benefits of green spaces. A few of them, for example, include ecological benefits, such as the fact that green spaces provide a habitat for a variety of birds, fish, animals, insects, and other organisms, while also providing corridors and greenways to linking habitats. In terms of the environmental benefits, they reduce liquid waste and water consumption. This includes low-flow plumbing, rainwater collection, drought-resistant landscaping, and there are a few other social benefits which provide recreational use, a place to play, meditate, gather, or rest. These are all different ways that green spaces are beneficial for us. Thanks to Ms. Boulad for joining us in the studio, and to Mr. Sallinger for joining us by phone. Before we end our show for today, there will be a quick video which highlights the main information about the Global Green Space Report issued in 2013. Thanks for joining us today. This was Eco-Terrorism, and I'm Zeinab Bailoun.
We've entered the urban era of humanity. With a majority of people living in cities, what does this mean for our relationship with green spaces, such as gardens, parks, and forests? Most people are aware that they need and want green in their lives. In our global survey, conducted in 9 markets, 89% stated that access to nature should be considered a human right. Our research shows that our contact with green spaces is declining year after year. Almost 4 in 10 people visit parks only once every 3 months or less often, and that number increases to over half in relation to forests. So there's a strong sense that there is a widening gap between what people want regarding green spaces and how they behave. Now, this is a problem when you consider a major finding of our study. The more time you spend in green spaces, the more time you want to spend there. However, the spiral could also be said to work in the opposite direction. Our report clearly shows that people have green dreams. When we asked people what profession they would choose if they could start over, landscape architect topped the list. So perhaps it is one of the challenges of our time to make green spaces more accessible, and to find creative ways to encourage everyone to get out and experience forests, parks, and gardens more often. We work to help people take care of and enjoy green spaces. Will you join us?